And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have three of my good brothers here in the temple. We have the Master of the Fistiverse, good brother Joel, who is currently muted.
That's me, baby. Always on time. And completely awake and ready for anything.
We have the man who is always late and fig, and is probably going to be drinking himself into a stupor when fall hits due to having to be a Redskins fan. Good brother Doku.
Hey, today I am straight and punctual, and I demand a booze.
You're gonna do that anyways.
Well,
And
I'm giving myself a good reason.
making his return to the temple, the man who has been trying to peer pressure me into getting dog ears. Good brother Jack.
Hey, what's happening?
So, first off, let me say Mother Nature is on the drugs again. Oh. I'm supposed to be getting snow over the weekend.
What the hell?
It's mid-April.
Wait, Mother Nature was ever off the drugs?
She's hanging out with Hunter S. Thompson, is how I like to put it.
She's doping on the microplastics.
She's microdosing.
I watched Fear and Loathing recently. That movie made me uncomfortable as shit.
That makes me uncomfortable. Yeah.
I'm like a guy with social anxiety, and so when I saw that movie, I was like, this is just all of the wrong things for me.
I have bad news for you. You just joined that exact movie in here. I'm 100% Dr. Gonzo of this chat, so, you know, good luck.
Now you know how Mother Nature feels about the fast food industry.
Yep. There is a book called Damned Highway that I can best describe as imagine if Hunter S. Thompson stumbled into the Lovecraft universe.
I too once liked to play dice.
No. But he's still acting like Hunter S. Thompson.
I sort of feel like we already have that with Old Man Henderson. That's basically that exact thing.
I kind of thought, based on what I saw, that he was living in a nightmare universe.
I mean, yeah. He was in a goddamn reptile zoo is what he was. Somebody was giving booze to those things.
Oh, I thought I was painting a tabletop miniature game. Then I realized I was just painting my old face with my own blood.
Yeah.
But enough about Slanesh.
I knew someone was gonna get that reference.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, have you heard of the good word of our? You know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole.
Hey, that's what we need a tabletop for. Is just like a group of people who are just drug addicts, and then they gotta like order a pizza or something.
Usually I'm the one who ends up being the guy who orders the pizza because of how little nonsense I put up with.
I mean, one or two more debaucherous dark gods couldn't hurt. Probably. It's Carla's fault.
Of course.
We all gotta have goals, you know?
Of course, there's always that one person who orders the pizza and then puts anchovies on mine just to test their luck, and then they learn very quickly that when I volunteer someone for stretching practice, it is not a nice day.
See, anchovies I can deal with. It's when you mix anchovies with pickled jalapenos that we really start to have issues.
You guys are describing a very delicious pizza here. I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
There was one who had the audacity to put blue cheese on it.
That sounds amazing.
What's wrong with blue cheese on a pizza?
Well,
That's like not liking feta on a pizza.
I fucking hate blue cheese. That's the problem.
Was it a white pizza or was it a red sauce pizza? Because that could work with.
It does actually matter.
It was red.
Okay, yeah, I'm with Mildred then. That's an abomination.
Yeah,
that's wrong.
Yeah. That just doesn't work. If it's a buffalo chicken pizza, fine. But
I just hate blue cheese on principle.
I mean, fair.
Like,
I've tasted it. I understand why someone would come to loathe it. Like, I get it. However,
just the smell is enough to piss me off.
Oh, so you're getting you're getting the good stuff. And by the good stuff, I mean it's a very acquired taste.
Yes, it tastes like Lederhosen is what it tastes like, but I love it. I can't help myself.
I'll have your blue cheese then. I love it. I'm having blue cheese, blue cheese, blue cheese, blue cheese, baked beans, blue cheese, blue cheese, and blue cheese.
Here is your bread with a side of socks, my sir.
I've actually been to the Spam Museum, and they have so that beautiful. Full menu.
Oh, it's so good. Can you imagine? It must have been like the birthday, right? It must have been like Christmas for the Spam guys. They're like, look, we've got a whole sketch. This is the most popular British comedy show. This is amazing.
But obviously, for tonight, we have another doubleheader. Now, with the first one that we've got, Mercs, Mages, and Monsters, I will note in full disclosure, 1, I did interview the double-headed monster that is Bad Toad Games. 2, when the original Kickstarter for this dropped, which I did back even if it didn't meet its goal, I was one of the backers. And 3, I was given a copy by the devs, but as always, that will not play a factor in my assessment. Joel can attest that me being given a freebie does not mean that someone gets a free pass.
Oh, not at all. You should see him savage my game. It's a thing of beauty. However, I would like to point out, I do send potential people who want to play my game to that review because it is gorgeously honest. Mm-hmm. So, it honesty has its own weight. I don't want empty fluff pieces. Everybody can get those.
Yeah.
A real designer wants to know what they've done works in the wild.
Mm-hmm. I always try to disclose that thing just as a matter of ethics.
Yeah.
Wow, it's almost like the nerd community used to have that type of thing back in the day.
It's so rare now.
What are you talking about back in the day? I'm still here.
I can almost hear his voice. It's like he's here right now with us somehow.
Wait, huh?
These hallowed halls of the temple.
I don't know, I'm stuck down here in the catacombs.
Joel, this is the kind of thing that gets you suplexed.
There used to be a time where if you needed a really crappy, ill-informed opinion, you would just go to Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh no. I thought we declared war on them many eon ago.
I know Queen did. They hate them.
I was just watching a video earlier today about Prince's FU to the Rolling Stone for in like 2006 for leaving him off the best guitarists list.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, Sorry, I was just gonna say they deserve all the hate and criticism they get because they brought it on themselves. And to be blunt, I think they kind of like it.
Yeah, I think they kind of do too, because they just are consistently awful at everything they do. It's incredible.
Yeah, even all the way back in Queen's heyday, they were awful. These were the same writers who called Bohemian Rhapsody a poor man's Pirates of Penzance.
Wow.
That's the
I know.
stupidest shit I've ever heard.
I know some of you are probably thinking that I'm exaggerating with that. Sadly, I am not.
All right, bring me the whetstone. We need to grind our axes. Even to this day, that cannot be allowed to stand.
Jesus Christ.
And
Like there is hatchet jobs. Then there's like shooting your own penis off just to prove that you can.
there was a certain writer for the
dear
Rolling Stones
Lord.
who was called out numerous times for his blatant favoritism towards Springsteen and just taking the piss out of everybody who wasn't Springsteen.
I'm actually a god.
Oh crap! I think I just realized it. Was Rolling Stone the original rage baiter?
I
No,
don't think they were smart enough. I think they really were just stupid.
I think they were just bad at. I think they were just bad at everything they did. That they just were talentless hacks. I don't know what.
Oh, so they're Kotaku.
Yeah, they're Kotaku.
Yes,
That's
very
the
much
one right
so.
here.
Yes.
there was a point in time where I had an opportunity to work at a place like that, and I turned it down because I knew it would be the shortest job of my career.
Yeah, you avoided that like the plague, brother. Well done.
I know that when I passed by some journalists that one year that I was at E3, they were always very uncomfortable around me. Probably because, you know, you got a bunch of 5'2" manlets walking around, then there's me just casually walking about.
5'2's not so short. Shut up.
Like they never said anything to me, but it's one of those things where you can just tell that they felt very inadequate that day.
Well, it does beg the question: if you wanted to go the easy route, you could have started your own publication, talking about identity politics discrimination, or are they intimidated by the intellect, or are they intimidated by the fact that they're just frickin' tourists?
I think they were intimidated by the raw mass difference.
All of the above.
Probably all the above, but I think it really does boil down to tourism because that's been around for a long time.
I think with one of them I just said, nothing personal, I'm just better than you.
Yeah, they were tourists.
Yeah. But getting back on the rails, I will note I enjoy the cover art we have here. Of the Boy King, his guard who clearly has no time for this shit. A weird looking rabbit in the background, and a emblem that feels like that's trying to be a triple-headed bird, almost like the double-headed bird that's on the flag of Prussia.
Oh, I thought I had a little hat. I thought it was a double-headed bird with a little hat.
No, I think
it might be a triple-headed bird.
Yeah, I think that's a bird with three heads, given the way the beaks are showing and the little dots for the eyes.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's the Hydreagle.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got to admit, that is probably the best expression of smug judgment I think I've ever seen.
So
I like it. Well done.
So let me do my usual check. We do have bookmarks. Good. And I need to check at the end for something.
I know what you're checking for, you judgmental bastard.
Yep. You know where this is going. And no, we do not have an index. However,
it's not that big of a deal.
I am, at the end of the day, a man of principle.
You can have your principles, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We can live without indices.
But
I can pass you a beer if you need one.
We do have a very nice table of contents. And like I said, it is bookmarked, and the text is searchable. The index thing is just a personal thing. You can blame those years of Palladium with those giant ass books with no indexes and table of contents that were inaccurate.
Okay, look, Palladium had no excuse, man. But like, I'm just saying, you can organize like a sort of mental heat map of a book without an index. I will say they are a nice quality of life feature. It's fine.
Now,
Just,
it depends on
maybe not
the
just
book
so
size.
personal.
If this
That's
was
true.
250 or 300 pages and it didn't have an index, then I'd have a problem.
Would you now?
Yes.
No, I'm aware. I'm aware that you would. Let's move on.
So, first
Turn to
section we
page
have
2d6.
is the world of Mercs, Mages, and Monsters. For the going forward, I'm just going to call it 3M, both to be a double reference and because I'm not paid by the syllable.
Yet.
Yet.
But what we essentially have is a medieval kingdom with a massive power vacuum, because you did have this land of Yogath that was ruled by a king and queen, and were soft and peaceful times. Eventually they had passed away during a plague and had left 6 heirs. Unfortunately, within a week of the death of the king and queen, the assassinations began. The 3 eldest sons and their families were assassinated within weeks of each other. The twin daughters, referred to as the sisters, were both killed as they traveled to the capital for the funerals. The youngest male heir, Causus, who had simply not left the castle, found himself the only remaining heir. Being the youngest of 6, he was often dismissed. So, pretty much any legitimate heir is dead, and the only one who's left is considered too young for the job.
I'm sure that ends well.
Mm-hmm. And the idea was, well, he's not going to last, so we're not going to communicate after these assassinations. Then he was crowned, and at the same time, a group of lords and merchants formed what they called the Consortium, which believes that Yogath should be ruled by a council, conveniently composed of themselves, rather than a monarch. The Consortium is in fact the same powers that orchestrated the assassination of the royal family. They had to learn to coordinate because they lost several men in each assassination to each other's men. And are still planning to remove the child king, but no obvious attempts have been made yet, as they don't want their existence to be known. Meanwhile, the warden is aware that there are forces working against the crown, but doesn't know who they are or what their goals are. And since all military falls under the authority of the crown, lords and merchants only have small personal guards. This requires the Consortium to raise a fighting force through the guilds. These guilds can spend and know nothing of who their benefactors are. Guild members are often used to investigate anywhere from the cities to the far reaches. Because of this, the world is beginning to spread of a strange magic and its shadowy practitioners. But those who go out to investigate it are never seen again.
This is a nice, busy setting right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's dense, but like quick and comprehensible. I love it.
The PCs are members of a guild. They work for either the Consortium or the Crown without knowing that they're working for either of them. And I like that they put in, navigating this world will be intriguing, misleading, and perilous. We wish them luck in their endeavors.
That's nice little flourish there.
Mm-hmm.
That is cheeky. I like that.
But also, the member's purpose. The first and foremost purpose of the member is to not die. No, really, the whole process of bringing a member back to life is terribly difficult and incredibly dangerous. With that warning out of the way, the true purpose of the member and their party/guild is to attempt to steer the kingdom of Yogath away from, or should you wish it, further towards utter chaos. With the world in a state of flux, the opportunities for you and your party are only limited by your guild master and your own moral compass. Your guild and your party can be hired to do anything from assassinations to rescue missions. You could, if you've earned favor from the king, even be hired to scour his castle for hob rabbits. How you decide to handle the contract may alter certain aspects of the world as you create a reputation for yourself and your guild. Even in this, you can see a little bit of the kind of dark humor that you see a lot of in Warhammer Fantasy. And I did bring that up during the interview, that there's definitely that vibe, and I think they did admit as such. Now, after that, we do have a glossary of terms, and I will bury the lead ahead of time. The core resolution mechanic is 3d8.
There's nothing wrong with 3d8. I was checking that out. It looks fine. I mean, it's a little GURPSy, but it's fine.
No, we're not going full GURPS yet. We're not dealing with 5 different session zeros just for a one-shot campaign.
I would like to point out I do actually really love GURPS, but I recognize its shortcomings.
But after that, we do have a nice little quick reference for the Guildmaster. Some elements of this we will get into later on. And as mentioned, we have a very, very nice map of Yogath. Then we have general information and mechanics, starting with the general understanding of the GUTS system. I will get into why it's an acronym later, but this is a roll under. You have to roll less than your trait level for success, so lower the better. 3d8 is what you're normally going to be rolling. If you roll under your trait level, the difference between that and the actual roll is your success level. So if you roll a 13 and your trait is 14, you have a success level of 1. Consequently, if you roll over, you have a failure level, generated the same way. The difficulty of the task adds either +2 or -2 for easy and hard, or +4 and -4 for very easy and very hard. This is basically added or subtracted to your trait level.
Okay.
Same thing
There's a
goes
little
with
less into the 5-ringsy.
Same thing goes with your level of training. If you're doing something untrained, it's a -4. If it's as an apprentice, it's 0. If it's as a journeyman, you get +1. If it's master, +2. Keep in mind that these modifiers affect your trait roll, not affect your trait, not the roll itself. When it comes to knowledge and history, there are 3 categories of it: common knowledge, obscure knowledge, and hidden knowledge. Knowledge is in part based on your race, class, and specialization. You get it as you complete contracts and learn more about the world. You can also get it from reading books. It can be partially included during character creation if the GM agrees. How many check attempts you can do for knowledge per day is based on your wit trait. Attempts are only consumed if no information is identified, learned, or remembered. Which I'm fine with this, because one thing I don't miss from a lot of games back in the 2000s was having knowledge or crafting as separate skills for each field of knowledge or crafting. It could get bloated real fast.
Well, and so few games wanted to do crafting seriously, right? Like, so many of them, it was just like this extra chore where one player was like off doing math and rolling and resource management, like in the corner.
Well,
So
I
it's
will
like,
be
well,
hon-
why
I will
is
be
so much of the
honest.
system dedicated to this.
When it comes to crafting, I've rarely found a case of it working the way I'd like it to, whether it be
Well, how
in
would you like it to? Like, what would make crafting fun for you?
um well, I kind of answered that with the way I have item synthesis work in Legend Edition,
Would
because
you care to give us a brief overview for those of us who aren't super familiar?
it has to do with the fact that instead of demanding very specific items, it is abstracted with the essences and is not built around recipes where you need extremely specific materials. It's the specificity that is the issue for me, and the fact that crafting cannot be customized. Even something like cooking can't be customized.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah, it feels like an oversight.
like when I think of cooking, I think of local dishes and local variants of dishes. Uh, Obviously, if I'm going to use an example, I'll, at the risk of sounding too Midwest, I'll bring up hot dish. Everybody's got their own
Ooh.
variant of hot dish. Everyone thinks their variant is the right way to do it. They're all both
Oh, I
right
mean,
and
clearly
wrong.
mine is the correct way.
I
But let's move on.
I sincerely have no idea what hot dish is to this day.
It is just casserole. We just call it hot dish because that's the way it works.
Gotcha.
That's so good.
I'm pretty sure. Think also of the long, stupid arguments between people from Kansas City and Texas over who does better barbecue.
Ah.
Yeah, those are vicious battles.
I have
Oh,
I have had to break up a few of them and remind people that there is always a bigger fish. 'Cause, they couldn't stand each other, but they were more scared of me than they were of continuing that fight.
Yeah, in terms of fishes, you are one of the biggest.
so I know Mildred's probably gonna laugh at me about this one, but as far as crafting goes, I think Jade Empire did it best. If you wanted to try to adapt that to a tabletop RPG, it's not about the ingredients or skills or anything like that. Like, no, just go to an NPC in a certain area, you get a certain quality of thing, and it's unique to that area, and just leave it at that.
Yeah, that is one. But
It's shopping. Crafting is shopping. I love it.
it the problem that I have with a lot of crafting systems comes down to specificity. And specificity is it's not the right word. I think a better word would be inflexibility.
Mm.
Especially in certain video games where you are teased with like two out of the three items you need for crafting a certain thing, and that last one you're not getting for a while, and by the time you do get it, the thing you were going to craft doesn't have as much impact.
Well, that's kind of the reason I brought up Jade Empire, is because I think there's something to be said to be leaving a certain amount of it up to an NPC or a region, and also a certain amount up to the player, and then the materials you can find in other regions. Like, sure, if you really want to go on a slog up to the mountain and then all the way back down to the plains to talk to this one very specific dude to get that one very specific item that you might or might not know exists, okay, fine, that's great. But that's about as complicated as it should get, in my opinion.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just crafting as an adventure, right? And that's fine. If your game is about adventuring, then yeah, everything should be an adventure,
Yeah.
including crafting. If your game is about seeing if your skill check works and resource management, that's what your crafting should be.
Well, like I
Yeah.
said, that's why I say that's as complicated as it should get, and even in my opinion, is still a little bit too complicated for most games.
Yeah.
It's fine. It depends on what you're gatekeeping behind because the crafting is just a speed bump between you and the thing you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the speed bump is too ludicrous, you're never gonna get there. It's like, sure, I need another mana potion, but I'm not really willing to crawl back up Mount Broken Glass to get one, you know. So
Yeah. But
what a fascinating tangent this has turned out to be.
Mhm. But that being said, it is worth noting for each contract, i.e., each session completed, the members get 25 XP. This can be adjusted by the GM. Certain acts might get you more depending on the GM. Once you've earned enough XP, you can learn new knacks, spells, or talents. So we are dealing with a XP as currency approach. The exception is mages, and specifically scrolls. You can learn a new spell from a scroll without additional training or using XP. I think you can guess the catch, though.
Are we going with the Grimoire approach?
Well, you gotta find the damn scroll first.
Yeah, Grimoire approach. But to be fair, I like that. But it's my personal cup of tea. I like those types of things.
Again, if your game is about going on adventures, shouldn't item acquisition be a bloody adventure? Like, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a loot whore. I'll admit it. I like those things. They appeal to me.
Get to questing then.
Yep. As an aside, I do enjoy that with the fall damage rules we have colonial feat. And a bit the sidebar when it comes to fatal colonial feat. It's really 1d4 plus height, but we think we're funny. Surviving a 120 colonial feat fall isn't likely. Again, that little touch of humor within the book.
I too once identified as a flying squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Then I hit the ground.
The reality caught up to you very rapidly in that case. But yeah, I love that kind of writing. Like, I do that too, where I'll just put like little in jokes and nods and winks at the reader, just because like it's so easy to get bogged down in the technicality of text, and you want it to be pleasant to read and reread because they're gonna be picking through it again. Showing you have a little bit of humor doesn't only humanize the text. It also it kind of tells them what you're actually saying without you having to use like 10,000 really technical words. Like D&D 3.0 did that, where they had these reams of like just terrible text, and there was just no humor in it. But you contrast that with like Pondsmith's writing in Cyberpunk, and it's just so vibrant and alive.
I'd say a lot of that technical writing comes down to the background of the people involved. Because you know what also was notorious for technical writing, even worse than 3.0?
What, Magic the Gathering?
Traveler.
Oh. Would the Traveler guys work on third, really?
No, but okay. Mark Miller has an engineering background, and he was very much writing it like an engineer would write a manual.
Yeah, he was writing a spreadsheet.
Yeah, that does explain a lot. And to be fair, the math behind their spreadsheets is pretty sexy. Like, looking at the actual progression of, like, base attack bonus in those is cool as hell. You know, we've really abandoned that style of design almost entirely, but they had some slick numbers behind all the spreadsheets in there.
I mean, look, the math is great and all, but having that little bit of flavor text in there, even if it's for no other purpose than to make the reading slightly more entertaining for people that are not, like, super math nerds. It also does serve another purpose that I think is really important. It kind of gives you the flavor for what the game should be played like.
Yeah. And we definitely have a mirth and mayhem approach here. The other thing is, I'd say a lot of people who were writing in that very technical approach were descended from the historical wargame clubs. And me personally, while I enjoy me some war games myself, the approach I took when I was writing Legend Edition was cut through the bullshit and get right to the damn point. But then we do have a overview of the combat system, getting back on the rails. The initiative is on a side-based affair instead of individual. One person with the highest agility trait rolls initiative. Whoever has the lowest roll goes first. If on a tie, the higher success level. Then members choose their order. So you don't have to go by high-low initiative, but that's what's suggested. When it comes to attacks, you're rolling against protection. The defender rolls for either agility or precision, if they're blocking or dodging, or if they're parrying. So highest level success wins, then attacker rolls weapon damage if they win, and defender rolls armor and calculates total defense. So you almost have a World of Darkness approach here, where you're rolling for attack and you're rolling for damage in a contested manner. But obviously, if you roll all ones, that is a critical roll. If you manage to get a success level of 6 or higher, it means you ignore all armor and defense. So in other words, if you rolled 6 under your trait, if you got a nat 3, i.e., all dice show a 1, it is an instant kill.
It's but a flesh wound.
Mm-hmm. If you roll nat 24, so all 8s, it's GM discretion on what occurs. It won't be good. And if you roll doubles, you can cause a status effect. Very nice. Although one of these days I will have to do a stream where I just read off the critical wound tables in Dark Heresy and try to hold it together while reading it, and fail miserably.
Why am I hearing the Ocarina of Time water temple music suddenly kicking in?
Because you were traumatized by that thing as much as everyone else was.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Mm-mm.
Water what?
But then
Why do
they
my
go
boots feel
into character creation. And yes, the character sheet is meant to look like a guild charter, which is a very consistent touch, I'd say.
Cheeky. Again, the subtle cheekiness I really like, but that's also probably because I'm a cheeky person.
We're not going to talk about the incident where you ended up trying to moon Dan Snyder.
Why do my boots feel heavy again?
Sorry, Kit set off the smoke alarm while he was cooking.
Nice.
I had to go on mute. I didn't want to hear my smoke
but-
detectors.
Send him to the water temple.
Obviously, choose guild name, choose race, choose class and specialization, then details, roll for affinity. You assign 20 trait points, so we are dealing with a point spend approach. Then you calculate hit points and natural defense. Then choose knacks, talents, or spells that are specific to your class and specialization. Any knack you pick starts at apprentice level. Then your starting equipment specific to your class. All equipment is common quality. And 100 XP to upgrade as you see fit. Or you can save that 100 XP for later. And I gotta love the image we have here of somebody trying to do some aggressive weeding, and his buddy thinks throwing him a pot will help him.
I mean, is there any evidence that it won't help him?
Well, if it hits him in the head.
Okay, yeah, that would actually probably be a hindrance.
I mean, pots are pretty hard.
Yeah.
They hurt.
Don't worry, buddy. I've got your back.
Your back just got punched twice.
Did I say back? I meant feet. I've got your feet. They'll be fine.
But so when it comes to
What are
races,
you trying to accomplish here?
they are a lot of them are the kind of races you would expect. I
Get
do like that
goblins,
each
though.
one has, aside from having a trait bonus, they have common and obscure knowledges that are tied to them.
That's cool.
So things that would be common knowledge for that race and things that would be less common. So we have humans, we have dwarves, we have elves, we have orcs, and we have goblins. Uh, I I do like the description for orcs and goblins here. Orcs are the large and heavy-handed folk of the realm. Books are beneath them. Literally, it's under the table leg.
It's fun.
And goblins, they lie, cheat, and steal, then stab you in the back for having the audacity to catch them in plain sight.
I heard goblins. Let me go grab my helmet.
I'm just impressed they can stab you in the back in plain sight. Way to go, boys.
But then we have the classes and specializations. There are only 3 classes: warrior, rogue, mage. Each has
I'm
their own
down.
specializations. Each class and specialization has access to different starting knacks, talents, spells, and equipment. Though they don't go into the available stuff here. It's just more of giving a description to see, oh, maybe this will fit your style. So first we have warrior, which well, it's a warrior. They come out to play. The specializations we have are brigand. Why ask for something? We can simply take it.
Solid question.
Soldier. It was this or keep working on the fields. And town guard. You really think I trained for this? They do go into some of their weapon preferences as well. Then we have rogues, who we have the specialization assassin. The choice of who lives and dies can be yours for a price. Thief. If they didn't want me to take it, they should have paid more attention. And
Valid point.
Deceiver. The cad could sell seawater as wine and no one would question it.
All valid points.
So we have a lot of people will find assassin and thief very familiar. Deceiver is I guess you could consider them the diplomancer. I consider them more of the con man.
I am but a humble merchant.
Don't you fucking start, Doku. I know where you're going with that. No.
Look, this was finally crafted from the lands of old.
Fuck.
And it can be yours for the price of 10 gold.
Anyway, mage. The specializations we have for that are academic. The answers to almost every question can be found in pages bound in leather. Battle mage. She summoned a beast from the churn and it slew them by the dozens. And shaman. I swear I saw squirrels collecting firewood for that man.
These are a lot of fun.
Hey, I sold that guy that book.
Yep. But then they go into a bit more detail on it. So each specialization gives you a assigned talent with an alternate option if you want to choose it. An assigned knack. 3 knack choices from a short list. A list of potential weapons, and a list of potential armor, as well as your standard starting equipment.
Just for the record, the best weapon is always going to be club.
Now, if you don't want to pick one of the talents, you can choose to not take it and get 50 additional XP at the start. I do find it interesting that we have both talents and knacks. It'll be interesting to see what the dividing line between the two of them is. I also like that we do have both gold and silver coins.
So bet that book for 10 gold.
As the arrows fell around him, Venric wished he grabbed a bigger shield.
Yeah, it does work out like that sometimes, doesn't it?
Same thing goes with Rogue. And if you start with lockpicking, you also get a Thief's Toolkit for free.
Ooh. Oh, I
Which
love
would-
that goblin on the next page. Look at that. That is
Yep.
glorious, man.
And then
I'm
with
dating
the
that girl right there.
mage, similar thing. All three of them have Magecraft as an assigned talent, which would make sense. I'm obviously going to have a bit of a partial leaning towards Battle Mage, because that's clearly the Gish.
Gish. It's
If you
weird
can't
that
beat-
the Gish came. Like, I'm never gonna get over Gish.
Look,
If you
I'm not
can't
the
beat
one who
them with
came.
spells. Sorry, I was just gonna say, if you can't beat them with spells, then beat them to death with your staff.
I'm not the one who came
Seriously.
up with the term. Also,
just,
the
We used to just have elves. Like, that was the elf, right? Like, Magic and Blade, like, first edition, elf. Now we have this, like, the Gith Zari and the Gith Young. It's like, oh my god, really? Like, we couldn't just call them, like, red mages or something? Like Final Fantasy did, have a little tact? No, we had to go
Fiendfolio
completely
came out
obscure
before.
and insane with it.
Fiendfolio came out before 87.
Okay, but the elf came out before all of that.
In fact, let
Sorry.
me double check. Fiendfolio was 81.
Sure. But, like, the wood grain box had elves in it, and they had magic and swords. Like, they're just elves. The whole idea of, like, the spell blade is that. And the red mage is based on that. Like, we could have went so many directions with it. We're like, oh, we'll go Gish Zari. Ugh, okay, fine.
It was
Made up
they were
Gygax
submitted
nonsense.
by users, so you're barking up the wrong tree.
Made up 1980s nonsense though. Like, we had so many cool ways to go, and we made it as obscure as we possibly could. It's like the most D&D thing we could have possibly done. Like, I'm kind of proud of us on the one hand, but on the other hand, it just feels so awkward saying that in conversation. Like, nobody knows what you're talking about.
I am the ancient grand elf known as Nintendo, and I cast copyright.
And anyways, after choosing your class and specialization, we do have the traits. There are 7 of them that are going to be influencing any actions, reactions, and interactions. And there are 2 methods you can take. You can either do the point buy method, where you've got 20 points to spend on the different traits, or the point spread method, which is basically you have an 8, 2 10s, an 11, 2 12s, and a 13, and you assign them. You also make an affinity roll during this, which is a random buff to one of the traits. You roll 1d8 to see which trait gets the buff, and then 1d4 to see how much it gets buffed. Traits start at 8 all across the board, and no trait can go higher than 17. That includes a buff from affinity as well as the +2 from race. The traits are vigor, precision, wit, agility, cunning, observance, and willpower.
I always love how creative people get when they go to name the bloody stat line in their system. I do it too, right? I think we all do it. There's some urge when you write your own game where you're like, oh, I'm going to use the term vigor. I love it. Every single new system, I find a new delightful term, and I'm like, ooh, they've got pulchritude as a stat. How fascinating.
So, then you determine your HP and natural defense. HP is half of your vigor plus 1d10. If you need to round it, round down. And your natural defense is based on your vigor. So at 8 to 9, you've got a natural defense of 1, 10 to 17, 2, 18 or higher, 3. And it is a bit odd that they put in the step with generating traits after, or not after, but before going into what each trait is. That's a bit of an odd choice. It's not the first time I've seen that kind of odd choice, but it is an odd choice. Like, I feel like pages 19 and 20 in the book should maybe have been swapped. But
Yeah, I could see that. It might read a little bit better.
Then it goes into knacks, talents, and spells. So knacks are abilities that you may have, and obviously these abilities range from apprentice, journeyman, and master. I already mentioned the modifiers that happen when you're using it at different tiers. For when it comes to crafting knacks as well as spells, if you have apprentice, you can try to complete that task at a higher level, but you take a -2 penalty for the task. If you want to try and go one step further to a master level task, it's a -4 penalty. Of course, you can upgrade a knack through experience points. So getting a knack, i.e. getting it at apprentice level, is 50 XP. Getting it at bringing an apprentice knack to journeyman is 100. And bringing a journeyman to master is 200. Also, everybody can speak the common language and speak their race's language.
Do humans have their own language, or do they only get common? Because I'm really getting tired of getting my fellow humans getting shafted. Like humans didn't invent every language. Yeah, I said it.
I've always taken the approach of regional dialects.
Well, I'm sorry. Don't some of us speak Dolphin in here?
Why would I speak deviant?
Like, their ridiculous squeaks and honks don't classify as language. Right?
First off, why would I speak the language of deviants and degenerates?
Yeah, revolting.
See, some of you think I'm kidding.
After my fourth flagon of Dwarven beer, I speak Dolphin quite fluently.
But
like, just because you got super drunk and made love to every dolphin in SeaWorld doesn't mean you speak Dolphin. They didn't call you the next day.
Based on how they're described, one could look at the knacks as skills. It's just that you're not getting skill points. You have degrees of proficiency with that skill, but you're still rolling the trait. There's no skill rolls here. You're just rolling traits.
Yeah, this is a fun, well knitted together little system. Honestly, I'm really digging it so far. It's pretty intuitive, even though it's not doing the D&D thing. It's doing its own thing.
This has more in common with Warhammer Fantasy than D&D.
Yeah, it's less clunky than Warhammer Fantasy. Warhammer Fantasy tends to take a little while and be a little bit ungainly in play. This is really tightly designed. Like, there's no fat on this. It's beautiful.
Yep. Well, it's not pretentious. It's like it makes sense. Like, it makes sense. Of course, it makes sense. Here you go. Like, is there anything? No. There you go. Like, just roll the frickin' dice. It doesn't need to be more complicated.
It's beautifully put.
So no matter, now that doesn't mean that knacks don't play any factor. The approach is that for each tier beyond apprentice, you're treating your trait as higher than it normally would be. Meaning you've got a higher TN to roll under, meaning you've got more opportunity to get a better degree of success.
I'm interested to see how much that influences the outcome, because it feels like it should be pretty significant.
Well, it was. I mentioned it earlier, but if you try to roll untrained, that is -4 to your trait. If you are rolling an apprentice, it's 0, so just the trait value as is. If it's journeyman, +1 to your trait. If it's master, +2 to your trait. And remember,
what I mean is, like, in terms of outcome, how far under your trait, like, what degree of success does what? Like, that's what I'm curious about.
um,
I don't think we're quite there yet.
mhm. And remember, degree of success is what, or degree of success or failure is the difference between the target number and what you rolled.
Mm.
Now, talents are unique abilities that you can use. I'd say talents would be akin to feats or more specific abilities, and it's clear you're I'd say a mixture of feats and class features. These are things that are going to be more specific actions that are tied to your traits rather than mainly providing a modifier. Now, several of the talents that are here are specific to classes or specialization. If you don't have that class or specialization, you can't take it, even if you can spend the XP cost. Talents also don't have mastery levels. That's exclusive to Nax. Also, I love this little side thing under... The guild prides itself on the medics we produce. They are highly trained and often find their place in the more well-known guilds. Scream in background. There's so much blood! Will you please excuse me? Something requires my attention. An interview with physician Marcus Fastidius at his training hospital.
This training hospital.
That's good.
And look at that face. That has such a bedside manner.
If I see that face hoving over me on the verge of death, I know that I'm in sturdy and capable hands.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, guys, don't judge them too hard. They're learning.
He's missing a tooth. I love everything about this image. This is beautiful.
I will note one of the knacks is fumbling medic.
Your death will not be in vain. I'll put the experience points to good use.
No, I think I'll be all right. Your mortal wounding will not be in vain.
It is but a flesh wound.
Mm-mm.
A mortal flesh wound.
Yep. And it looks like the only one of the few skills that is, or not skills, knacks that is you can take this multiple times is just literacy. You're just taking it multiple times to learn different languages. But when it comes to talents, and I do like that we have this little table of contents for knacks and talents. And they were creative with several of the names. Like, the shiny rock protects me. Or spoonful of murder.
I wanted to be a cook once.
Mm-hmm. Or drunken rage. I'm looking squarely at you, Doku, when I say that one.
I don't know what you're talking about. Hold on. Wait. There we go. Okay.
But
drunken and what now? Something about a spoon?
Yeah, with several of these, you do have to have a certain rating with a trait in order to take it. With the ones that you do, I do like that they note which trait you're going to be using just in the title of it. Like with aim shot / aim strike, it's precision. And of course, for it, you need a precision of 15 or higher. Not all of them are high ones. Like for idiot savant, you need wits no greater than 10.
So I need to drink 10 beers. Gotcha.
Mhm. Each of them has a amount of XP that they cost, though there's a bit of a typo with the disguise one where it doesn't list the XP cost. Um, I think this, based on how all the other talents are described and the way disguise is, I think this was put into the wrong spot. Like, this reads more like a knack than a talent.
Maybe the knack is the talent.
That would be stupid. We don't do stupid.
Or do we?
No.
He says as he drinks his beer.
I do like Knife in the Dark here. You add 1d8 damage to any surprise melee attack. When the sneaky pays off, it really pays off. Or Knock Knock. The ability to kick in a door properly. The member can kick in a door and go right into an attack.
Oh, that's beautiful. You know what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They know what I want.
I mean, looks locked or simply a suggestion. It's not my fault they didn't open when they were supposed to.
See, y'all are a bunch of amateurs. I don't try and pick the lock. I don't try to kick the door down. I just use explosives.
I don't have a rebuttal for that. Well played.
Yeah, that pretty much takes care of all of it in one go. Way to go.
Like, why try and open the door when you can just blow through the wall?
Say it with me. Mildred wants Big Boom.
I mean, look, they said we had to acquire the item. Did we actually have to bring the person back alive? Or did they just want the item? It's not my fault they didn't clarify.
But, so, Spoonful of Murder, which I looked at earlier. You know how to make 1 moderate poison per attempt without the apothecary knack. 2, you get 2 weak potions in your starting inventory. Requires Cunning 13, costs 300 XP. Most of these seem to cost 300 XP so far.
I do like curry.
Mm-hmm. Also, the Shiny Rock Protects Me is a wit one. Requires wit 15. Your Shiny Rock has saved your life. You can survive 1 fall that would formerly be fatal per session. You suffer a wit penalty of -4 for the rest of the session.
I do love my shiny rock, but every time I give praise to it, everybody looks at me funny in public, and I don't know why.
Then we have I See You. Requires Observance 15, costs 300 XP. You never lost a game of I Spy, and you aren't about to start now. Once per game day, you can use your skill to locate any object, person, or creature that may be hidden within view.
I always did like those laser eye beam scenes from Dragon Ball Z.
Those are the gentleman scenes.
Mm-mm.
The laser eye is always better than the frickin' blast, the force blast breath. It's like, no.
I will say I love me a good power puke. I've got a soft spot for that.
The power puke is fine, but if you want to go with the gentleman's way of blowing somebody's head off, it's with a strong stare.
Oh yeah, strong stare or just pointing and doing finger guns like my boy Frieza.
Oh yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get past the finger gun.
Finger guns, and you're not mentioning Yusuke? Shameful.
He had a finger shotgun too. Honestly, he had way more versatility in his finger guns. We were just specifically talking DBZ. I wasn't expanding out.
I mean, look, it's all fun and games until somebody starts talking about fisting.
You read my name, right?
Or fisting, that is.
But also, I love that while we have Whirlwind as a cleave variant, you don't need a whole lot to get it.
Yeah, it's not some giant like apex of a tree for fighters to burn feats on.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a thing you can just grab. That's kind of satisfying.
Yeah, You do need Vigor 16, which is a bit of an investment starting out. Because remember,
That's true.
the range of traits is 8 to 17.
Yeah, so that's tremendous starting out, I imagine. It looks like he would burn a lot getting there.
I was
But
going to mention this earlier, but I feel like it's a good thing to bring up now. They do give you a very broad, well, not broad, but they do give you a very clear path. Do you want to specialize in something and be really good at not like a one-trick pony type of maximization, but maximizing in one particular direction, or do you kind of want to mid-max and be a jack of all trades? Not necessarily master of none, but enough to get by. Like, there's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, at character creation, you're getting one talent based on your specialization.
Yeah, it's not like you have to lean into mid-max or specialize. Like, you're not going to just be underpowered or overpowered. Like, it's actually fairly well balanced, at
Yeah.
least from what I'm seeing thus far.
But with the Whirlwind Cleave, any target that's in
Choice,
close range of you, this heavy attack will sweep the area immediately around the member, striking enemies that fail to dodge until it is blocked, parried, or the member returns to their starting position.
Cue the heavy metal music.
But when it comes to spells, first off, in order to use spells, you need the Magecraft talent. You learn spells with wit. You resist spells with willpower. There are two classifications for spells: combat, which is attack and defense, and charm. So, obviously for attack, TD, i.e., total defense, negates damage, and defense is, well, defense. Charm spells are resisted by willpower. You have two casting types as well: Fire and Forget, 1 turn, no follow-up, and Concentration. You stay engaged with the spell until it is completion or failure. You have to pass a willpower check each turn the spell is active, getting more difficult by 1 each turn. Meaning, if your willpower is 12 and you pass the first round, next round you got to pass 11, then 10, then you keep going until you've actually cast the damn spell. Now, when it comes to learning spells, you can either learn them in a Mage Hall, which is how you learn by spending XP. Learning from a scroll, that is either found, awarded, or purchased. If you pass a wit, you can pass a wit check on a scroll to identify it, but only once per game day. There are 3 schools of magic: Arcane, Growth, and Decay. Learning more than one school takes greater effort, both in success levels and XP. Basic spells can be learned by anyone or any mage without additional effort. So we do have how many schools that you have access to determines the XP cost, as well as the wit check.
That's straightforward, and I like it because magic systems can get really bogged down really easily.
The wit check here, I believe that's the threshold that you need to succeed. So, if you're doing a wit check to learn a spell from a scroll, you can only make 1 attempt per in-game day. If it's your first school, you just need to succeed. If it's your second school, you need to succeed with a success level of 2. If it's your third school, you need to succeed with a success level of 4.
So in other words, you're a natural, you're kind of good, and you suck.
And learning spells from your second and third school cost more XP than the others. Like for first school, it's 50, 100, and 150. For your second, it's 100, 200, and 300. And for your third school, it's 200, 400, and 600 XP. And
That seems pretty straightforward and to the point.
And we also have the setup for how spells are going to look, and this applies just as normally. When you get a spell, you're getting it at the apprentice level. If you want to get it at journeyman or master, you got to pay up.
I think that's
Nothing's
fair.
free.
Yeah, I feel like this is making it so you have different types of like mages. You know, people who specialize in different kinds of spells. That's nifty. I think that's good design.
If you're a human mage in Warhammer Fantasy, you have to lock because of the way magic works in that setting. You have to lock yourself to one particular wind of magic.
Yeah.
Here you don't have to do that, but it is going to be easier to learn from that one school that you start with. Both learn through XP as well as learn through the wits check. And remember, you get one attempt a day. So best hope you manage to pass that check. Depending on the scroll, it might be easier or more difficult to even pass that check.
Yeah, it does look like you got to invest in it pretty hardcore to be good at it. Again, I think that's probably for the best, though. You know, I think they knew what they were doing with this magic system. They have a good blend here of like being able to, again, kind of be a jack of all trades, to be a specialist, or mix those to your heart's content.
Yep.
Yeah, this sounds like a lot of fun to play around with. I may have to check this out.
And when it comes to basic spells, anybody can learn those without any problems.
Okay.
I'd say basic spells would be the equivalent of, say, cantrips or the low-level stuff any 2-bit mage can do.
I like that, though. I feel like those should be a little more accessible outside of classes. So that's for the best.
I do like this here. It took them a lot longer than it should have to realize that casting that slow fall spell at the top of the cliff just after jumping made them excellent target practice for the archers. More concerning was the amount of them that hit the ground full speed trying to cast it with perfect timing. Officer Drumthal on his interactions with rogue mages.
I'll admit, I've tried it. The thing, though, is, like, okay, what else would it possibly be for? Right? Like, that's the exact reason you would have a slow fall spell. So what do you mean I can't use it when I leap off a cliff? That's literally its purpose. It's a bloody parachute. You telling me a parachute won't work in the one circumstance I need it? Come on.
Well, it's not about whether it will work or not. It's about the duration of the spell.
Right. But clearly, knowing its duration, I would cast it at an appropriate time. Like, I wouldn't do it at the very beginning of the jump.
On the other hand, if you screw it up doing it late in the jump, you're going to be embraced by the earth very quickly.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, okay, so what you're telling me is, because again, in D&D especially, spells are pulling a trigger. You do the complicated part of the spell prior to, like, prepping it. So, like, you start that at the beginning of the day, you're like, oh, I might need to fall slowly at some point. You do a huge elaborate ritual, and you hang the spell in your soul, and then when it's time to use it, you say, like, one word, and the spell goes off. Like, that's how spells work in D&D. Like, why would you have any problem ripping a ripcord from a parachute when you're falling? Like, that's what it's for. What else can you possibly use? It's just such ridiculous.
I keep saying it, but this isn't drawing from D&D. This is drawing more from Warhammer.
I know, but again, we come to this point where why would you invent the will almost certainly kill you spell? Right? What would be the
because
point
it's funny, that's why.
I was gonna say, isn't that the nature of magic, though? It's always a little bit chaotic and unpredictable.
And
yeah, but like, okay, let's say you're a mage and you're willing to take the risk that you might blow yourself up with your fireball. Most of the time, you should expect that your fireball will blow up your enemies instead, or else you're just completely insane, right? That's just like taping a bomb to yourself and hoping the tape comes loose when
Have you seen the Bright Wizard in Vermintide? Are you gonna say that's the Pillar of Sanity?
What I'm saying is, okay, like, you still have to have enough sanity that you have a playable character, you know? Because if you're telling me that my guy is just a raving lunatic who just, again, sets himself on fire to hug himself to his enemies, why would I bother studying magic? I can do that with a rat catcher.
I mean, look, I once pulled a rabbit out of a hat and said, hippity hoppy, your testicles are my property, and rolled a 1. And then the rabbit looked at me.
But I will note
Anyway.
the approach with basic spells is that again, regardless of which spell list you specialize in, you can take those without having to spend more. And they are very much cantrips. Like we have Breathe Underwater, Cat's Eyes, Chill, Clean Self, Heat, Iron Pan, Levitation, Sense Magic, Slow Fall, Spark, and Torchless Light.
Fairly bog standard, but that's a good thing.
Yep. It's recognizable.
All
right, so that's my 2 hours, Mildred. I gotta pop off here and sleep.
No worries, man. I will catch you next time. Stay frosty, Joel.
Stay frosty, my friends.
Later, brother.
See you later.
Yeah, I got about
It's nice meeting you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got about 30 minutes before I got to head off as well. So,
but I do want to read through Iron Pan. One of the very few spells not invoked through hand movements, but instead invoked through shouting, "I cast Iron Pan." A cast Iron Pan is summoned from somewhere in the world and thrown at the caster's target from a random direction. Contents and conditions of the pan vary. Only one pan can exist in the immediate area at any point in time.
I cast iron! That was my favorite thing about Fable. The most epic weapon. The cast iron pan.
Yep.
It never gets old. Never gets old.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is a magical spell that transcends space and time.
Yep. And people thought I was weird for homebrewing a spell called Summon Anvil, and it not doing just make the anvil appear next to you. If you've seen Looney Tunes, you know how this works.
I was gonna say, how do you not see the meta humor in that? I would be so disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Say, what, do I have to make a freaking SpongeBob reference? Like,
but it's very clear the arcane spell list is gonna be your blaster caster, where growth and decay are more natural spells. One is more about, well, the environment growing. The other one is about, well, the environment ungrowing. But I wouldn't call the decay spell list necromancy.
Well, because you're not really raising the dead. It's more you're just the other side of the coin of growth.
Mm-hmm. It is anti-druid magic.
Pretty much. I grow a tree. Okay, I cast rot.
Mm-hmm.
I cast magic mushroom.
Oh yeah. And you have different tiers for several of the types, though some have a higher floor. Like shapeshift is always master, meaning you got to pay up if you're going to be learning that.
I mean, that makes sense because, like, okay, what are you going to shapeshift into? Like, oh, I shapeshift into a dragon. Well, that's just OP. So,
well,
yeah,
you can't even do that here. It says you change yourself into a creature of wood, vines, and plants.
Oh, okay, so it's still in that vein. Okay, good. That's because I personally, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me on this. If you can just change yourself into a creature and get its stats, that's supposed to be like a boss monster. Like, no, that's BS. That's broken. Don't do that.
Oh. We also have a nice little quote here. Knowing when and when not to cast a spell is something every good mage knows. For the rest of you, here's a chart to show you the kinds of risks that you're taking with your powerful finger wiggles at different levels of mastery.
I wag my finger distastefully at you.
Which almost gives the vibe that they expect and plan for accidental deaths from apprentice mages being idiots.
Why did I lose my finger suddenly?
On the other hand, we do have a miscast and mishap table.
There we go.
So this is what you have to roll if you fail the check to cast a spell. I know some might look at these spell lists and go, "Wait, there's no MP, no spell charges or anything like that." No, because there are other ways to control this kind of thing. Chief among them is the fact that you're casting using willpower. So anytime you cast a spell, you have to make a willpower check. If you're doing a more extended one, which is noted in some of the duration ones that are using concentration, you got to do it at a decaying willpower. And if you fail, you're rolling on the miscast and mishap table. So let's see. 1 to 2, fizzle. The spell fails. 3 to 4, draining. You take 1d4 willpower damage for the rest of combat. 5, backfire. You get hit. The spell rebounds on you, and you take 1d6 damage. And 6, wild magic. The caster and those who are close and near you are caught in an explosion of magic. Those near you can attempt an agility check to jump clear. Those that fail or are close take 1d8, 1d12, or 2d12 damage, scaling with the mastery level of the failed spell.
Wild magic was never a good thing.
But we do...
You got loaded dice.
We do also have crafting. The apothecary and artificer knacks allow you to craft items. What you can craft with it depends on the mastery level of that knack. But for apothecary, you're using wits to craft. You can do it twice a day, or if the GM lets you. It is also used for identifying supplies that you may need, as well as crafting. And the item may have a certain time requirement and how many items you create from attempts.
I would say that's a good mechanic. I'd like to see how that plays in game, though.
The vibe that I get out of this is, as long as you do have a ingredient requirement, but I'd say this isn't as rigid as some other ones I've seen. Because it talks about common supplies, common herbs, essences, and the like.
Yeah, it doesn't seem too restrictive, but like if you really want to go out of your way to get something really good through a crafting system, like okay, we can scale it up, but it's again not restrictive.
Yeah.
So you kind of know what you're getting into.
And when it comes to artificer, that uses willpower. And items are either blessed, etched, imbued, or a magnum opus. Instead of a successful check giving you a certain number of that item you're trying to craft, you have to do a certain success level in order to successfully craft it.
Okay, that I like. Because that's how crafting should be. It should be a skill-based thing.
Yeah. At Apprentice, you can just make blessed items. At Journeyman, you can make blessed or etched. And at Master, you can make blessed, etched, imbued, or magnum opus. Though there is still a time sink, whether it be a few hours or a few days.
I could get past the time sink because I think that's appropriate considering like just reading through briefly like what it's giving you. Like the time sink is appropriate here. You can't just be running around having handing everybody a legendary weapon just because you spend 30 in-game days doing it. Like no, there needs to be some restriction.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise everybody's gonna be OP as crap.
Yeah. Now, it should be noted that they're still divided between Apprentice, Journeyman, and Master. Things like Blessed, Imbued, and Magnum Opus is the tier of effect on several of them.
And that's a good like parallel balancing thing.
And you do still need the proper materials. But when it comes to equipment, we have the armory proper, as any good upstanding game is going to need. Some weapons will have a vigor level, meaning you need to have that score in vigor, otherwise you take a -1 penalty to precision checks for each point in difference.
Yep. In other words, if you're not proficient, you're clumsy.
Mm-hmm.
Good balance.
And of course, we do have damage modifiers for weapon quality. Poor, -1, common 0, well-made, +1, masterwork, +2.
And for some reason, that reminds me of the war gear from the old Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate game, where you could get the mastercrafted weapons.
Yep. And
but they're really hard to get.
Each one has a certain base damage. When it comes to armor, heavier armor will reduce your agility. And instead of having a static armor mod, which it's very clear that armor is giving you soak and not boost to defense because it's rolled contested. You're rolling the armor's dice, adding that to your natural armor to see how much damage reduction you do.
Again, good balancing. If you want to be a tank, it should play like a tank.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you can soak up a ton of damage, but it doesn't mean you should be walking around like normal. It's like, no, you're an anchor, not a jumping around doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But there definitely does need to be a penalty.
Yeah. They do go into general items, and they are using a slot-based inventory approach instead of tracking weight. Your vigor determines how many inventory slots you have. At 8, you have 8 slots. At 11, you get another one. Then another one at 14, 17, and 20.
Okay, quality scaling.
Mm-hmm. It very much reminds me of things like the Black Hack.
Yep, and it seems... I'm not going to say generous, but reasonable.
Yep.
It's reasonable leaning to slightly generous.
Mm-hmm. So, at the GM tools section, there's a few other minor things to note. One of them is a contract generation table. And roll D8 for a catalyst, event, target, location, and obstacle. I think it's clear you're supposed to be rolling D8 for each column. And this isn't too far removed from like a mission generator you'd see in Shadowrun.
Yeah, and I would actually prefer this system as opposed to Shadowrun. Again, just seems ever so slightly more forgiving. Like maybe you could tweak it a little bit in later game to get some more challenge, but I don't know. This one seems a little bit more fun. Yeah. I think you could have you have a little more flexibility, at least from what I'm seeing. Again, I'd have to play it first to really give a definitive answer, but just from the paper standpoint, I kind of like this one because it doesn't seem quite as punishing.
Mm-hmm. And we also have a little table for generating a small town. if you want to bring in a random ass settlement. The tiers are, so it's an inn. It's an inn. Mind your coin purse. A hamlet. Have you bathed recently? Well, you can't here. There's a few houses, farms, and not much else. Unless you befriend someone, sleeping on a pile of hay is as good as it gets.
Accurate.
Then village. There's an inn within the village and some locations to do general shopping. The village generally has a headman or council of elders that leads it. Then small town. Here you'll find an inn, shops for general and some specialty items. You may find a guild hall as well. They will have local guards, a jail, and defined local leadership, likely answering to the nearest city.
Hey, makes sense.
And that more or less covers mercs, mages, and monsters. So
I would say it's a pretty well thought out system.
This is definitely a strongly recommend, especially for people if you want something like Warhammer Fantasy First or Second Edition, but don't feel like going through the deep archives and some of the weirdness of Warhammer Fantasy and just want something a little more beer and pretzels.
A little more user friendly.
Yeah, this will certainly fit that bill. If they do expand on it, I do hope to see other spell lists. But
it's definitely a good skeleton. Like there's a lot you could build on that. What's the right way to put it? You could very easily go with this, but there's also a lot of different offshoots you could go with if you wanted to, say, make it a little more cheeky casual or, die hard, try hard. Like, you could definitely tweak things.
Yeah, the reason I put this as strongly recommended is because I can't really think of any spot where the only real spot I can see anything close to an issue is just with with just a couple spots in terms of page organization, and that is as minor as it gets.
Yeah, I mean that's literally just copy paste. Okay. Page 20 goes to page 10. Page 10 goes to page 20. It's not a biggie.
And I'd say this is in the same level of complexity and the same level of accessibility as, say, Dragonbane.
I'm not super familiar with Dragonbane, but I'm familiar enough to say that I would probably agree with you. Honestly, I guess if I had one criticism, the only thing I could really say is when it comes to some of the abilities, maybe just a little, and this doesn't have anything to do with the mechanics. Maybe flesh things out just a tiny bit more so I can get a better idea of like how things are supposed to play, not from like a dice roll standpoint, but from like an in-game standpoint, like from a roleplay standpoint. Like an immersion, that's the word I'm looking for. Like from an immersion standpoint. There's probably a little bit more.
I don't really see how much more you could really add to how knacks and talents work. And given how light this game is doing it, I could see that getting a bit overwrought. But
and again, I'm reaching because I am trying to be critical. Like, but it's difficult to find fault with this. I actually think it's very good.
Yeah. And while there isn't a physical option, The PDF version is $10.
That's cheaper than a McDonald's meal.
Imagine unironically eating McDonald's.
Excuse me, sir.
But we're gonna take a break for a couple of minutes, and then we will jump onto Soul Tyrannus, which is going to be a very different beast. Also slightly lighter, at least in terms of page count. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes. back, ladies and gentlemen. So for the second one, this is brought to us by Winged Lion Games. I did back it on GameFound, as mentioned before. I have attempted to reach out to Winged Lion Games about doing an interview in the past, and there's a language issue, so that didn't happen. This thing came out about a year ago. But despite the daunting appearance, the PDF itself is only 62 pages, and I have a feeling it's not going to be that dense. Sometimes with these things, a PDF can look big if you just look at the page count, but then you see it's single column, so it ends up being an easier read than it might appear.
I mean, 62 pages is more actual reading than I've done in years. Unless we're counting like work reading, but work reading doesn't count as reading.
That's almost like counting the full chemical name of Titan as the world's largest word, which is not counted.
Yeah.
Which is good because the full chemical name for Titan is about several thousand characters long. But because that's more akin to a code that just happens to use English letters, it is not counted. At least as far as what the longest word in the English language is. The full chemical word is 189,819 characters.
Jeez. At that point, you'd think that they would just come up with the shorthand, which I suppose they did.
Again, it is technically chemical code. So it's kind of like looking at say a code for a computer and saying, "Oh, this is a very long word."
And I mean, if I'm gonna type out a code for a special molecule or anything, it better be transparent aluminum.
Don't you mean aluminium? But somebody put the full word in a PDF. The PDF is 42 pages.
Jeez.
But so now, Soul Tyrannus describes itself as a narrative dark fantasy game. What they call sword and sorcery horror. The GM in this is called a singer, and the PCs are called actors. The mission is to slow the decline of a world that has been dominated since time immemorial by the influence and whims of alien, indifferent cosmic entities, such as the ominous Purple Sun. It gives it a very old-school sword and sorcery vibe. You know, like some of Robert E. Howard's early work. Who, well, Howard was friends with Lovecraft. Although I'd imagine some of that friendship was just their shared hatred of Hugo Gernsback. The same Hugo who the Hugo Award is named after. Lovecraft despised him. He called him Hugo the Rat. As far as why, apparently he had a history of stiffing people in an era where science fiction writers weren't getting paid a whole lot anyways. So I can understand. I can understand why.
I haven't read a lot of the pulpy old what do you call it, fantasy stuff.
Mhm.
Unfortunately.
Um, a lot of a lot of pulp fantasy wasn't even in its own book for the longest time. It was in anthology books.
Hmm.
Stuff like Weird Tales.
Ah.
I suppose a more contemporary parallel would be 2000 AD or Tales from the Crypt,
Hmm.
where it's not really about one character or world, but just a bunch of them that are in the individual issues.
Hmm.
Um, heavy metal qualifies as well,
Hmm.
but they do go into a bit of what a RPG is, um, as well as the fact that if you want, you could play this game without a GM, which is certainly a way to do it. A lot of times the GM role is shared across the whole table.
Well, how would that work exactly?
Uh, it is it is stated that that it would be done um, through certain modules. One of them is a module called the Path of Penance. As well as using things like game books as a reference point. So it's one of those things where it can be done, but it requires everybody to be on the same page. Since
Ah.
the idea is that think of the game master as a director.
Hmm.
The
I
idea. Hmm?
I once as a music nerd, I've heard of bands that don't have a director leading them. Instead, they all just kind of go at the same time with like a nod or something like that, and they're able to keep in time together.
That's pretty much jazz sessions or bebops.
Yeah, but I mean like a full orchestra kind of thing.
Hmm.
So like a lot of people all at once.
Yeah, I think there have been full-size jazz sessions, but not in the early days. Uh, Especially not in the days where jazz was this controlled chaos. Which I realize is a contradiction, but that's the best way to describe sessions.
Hmm.
But let's see. Then they go into the Descend into Darkness part of it. Uh, then finally, with Chapter 2, we get into what the crisis system actually is. Uh, though it is interesting that each character is supposed to be some kind of legend, which the singer evokes the actor. So there's almost uh, a natural dramatic nature. Almost as if you're playing a retelling, which is certainly an interesting way to do meta. You know, have you ever seen The Usual Suspects?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a prime example of that whole unreliable narrator kind of thing.
Ah.
Uh,
Oh yeah,
but
I've seen lots of examples of the unreliable narrator trope.
yeah, I'd say one of my personal favorites is Hero, the Jet Li movie that came out in I think 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I know, like, there's Portal was a game with one. There was also the movie Memento.
Mm-hmm. I'd say Memento is a better example of the unreliable narrator than The Usual Suspects.
So himself, he was an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, it's more of doing a twist in a narrative is a gamble, and the gamble with the gamble that they did with The Usual Suspects doesn't quite land. When you have it that the narrator is the one who was the villain the whole time, so everything he said was probably a lie. Because the way a twist is supposed to work is once it's revealed, everything should fall into place.
Yeah.
Now, granted, some things that are revealed as twists were only that by convenience. Case in point, Star Wars. The whole father thing, that was Lucas trying to write himself out of a corner he put himself in. And then,
well, I mean, it freaking worked. Everyone like flipped the hell out.
the reason it was done that way is because it was felt that he had too many characters he was juggling by the time he got to Empire. But the father thing was so important to the story, it had to be done somehow. So that was his way out. And the whole it's true from a certain point of view was his way of gaslighting everybody, including the staff on the matter, and doubly so for the whole sister thing. Leia being Luke's sister wasn't originally planned. That was him trying to get out of a situation he wrote himself in.
Well,
and
I think that in a way he kind of wrote himself into another situation, seeing as he made the brother kiss the sister.
Yeah, the funniest thing, the Star Wars CCG at the time called it out not once but twice, with 2 cards called "This is just wrong" and "This is still wrong."
And then there's like the one creepy guy in the audience. Oh yeah.
Which not only was that a real card, we have evidence of that card existing. I'm gonna put this in the side chat for you.
Oh boy. And then what? Not only that, she says she always knew after she found out. Did she know then?
Supposedly Hamill called him out on that on set.
You know, say what you want about Mark Hamill, but the old series and the new series put that guy through the ringer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But getting back to Soul Tyrannus, actors, so the PCs, have 3 attributes: body, mind, and heart. Body represents physical abilities, mind encompasses intelligence, rationality, and mental balance. Heart reflects emotional capacity. You also start with 3 stress points, 2 stamina points, and 1 wound point. For each point you get in that attribute. Stress is restored at the end of each crisis. Stamina at the end of each adventure. Wounds only through special methods. And it does appear that the approach is you have stress, stamina, and wound for each attribute. So essentially you have 9 sets of HP. And if any of those stats go into the negatives, things get worse. but you also have a set of proficiencies. These include martial arts, athletics, culture, empathy, perception, and technical. They said the description is intentionally left vague, allowing both the player and the singer to interpret its function and limitations based on context. Which makes sense, this is a very narrative affair. When you're doing a check that is referred to as a challenge, you first have to describe how you're going to resolve the situation and then specify an attribute and proficiency relevant to that resolution. You roll a d10, and based on the result, you get either a full success, which is 8 or higher if you have the proficiency. Otherwise, you got to roll a 10. So you did what you wanted to do with no drawbacks. A partial success, so 4 to 7 with proficiency and 7 to 9 without. You succeeded, but you lose 1 point of stamina. So you succeeded, but a failure is 2 to 3 with proficiency or 4 to 6 without. You failed. A complete failure is 1 with proficiency or 1 to 3 without it. Not only did you fail, but you lost stamina in the process. So what you have is yes, yes but, no, no and. Which isn't too far removed from say, Powered by the Apocalypse, although that only has 3 tiers. But it's that same kind of yes and no approach. I do like that they put the sidebar fail for the better, because there is a school of thought that's emerged in the last decade called fail forward. The idea of fail forward is a failed roll is not necessarily a narrative stop. Which can happen at times, where somebody, like, imagine someone trying to pick a lock and then they roll and they're like, you do not pick the lock. It's like, all right, I don't pick the lock. Which
the lock blows up and kills everyone.
I have used load-bearing locks in my games.
Well, that's just poor design right there.
So usually with treasure chests or the like, i.e., if somebody's trying to break in, they're probably trying to steal it. So if the owner can't have it, nobody can. But then they go into Crisis, the system that's giving the game its namesake. When you have a more tense situation that can be resolved, whether it be a fight, an escape, a negotiation, picking a lock while guards are patrolling, a crisis begins. Now, the construction of a crisis, it has its own details in Chapter 5. We'll get to that later. But after describing a situation, the singer, so the GM, sets the value of the crisis gauge, represented by boxes that have to be filled. Then the crisis turns begin, which starts with a action phase. During that phase, each actor can perform a single challenge, describing not only their actions, but the scene in which it takes place. Though a partial success results in you losing 2 stress points instead of 1 stamina. So, in other words, crises are more high risk. And once all actors have described their conflicts, the crisis phase, the repercussions of the crisis, is resolved. This could result in loss of stamina or wounds, or worse things if the GM is feeling particularly spicy. And multiple crises can occur simultaneously. So, in other words, it seems like the crisis gauge that we have here is meant to be a catch-all of the things that are threatening you from continuing the story that you planned. And failing means losing either stress or stamina, or in some cases maybe both. And for each round that you don't resolve the crisis, you're dealing with a consequence of it. So this basically makes every crisis a race against time. Which you could almost call it a time crisis. I feel dirty just making that joke.
I don't understand the reference.
The old arcade shooter.
No.
Well, it was more of a light gun shooter that you see in arcades.
Gotcha.
And some people would always try and do that rapid fire thing that just breaks the trigger.
Ah.
But one of the things you do have to worry about when it comes to certain crises is corruption. If you get corruption of 5 or higher, you get an alienation, a compulsion resulting from a loss of mental balance. Alienations are basically the. It seems that it's the things like the purple sun starting to affect you. And we do have a brief table of them, as well as mutations. Best case scenario, you just have some issue with your mind. Worst case scenario, you start looking a bit non-human. Like, for example, sanguine. The first form of it, you struggle to focus on a specific event. Or the worst case, the body becomes vulnerable, losing cohesion whenever you lose focus. This results in gradual changes in physical features, such as the position of the eyes or the length of the limbs. Challenges that require the body to maintain the same position for an extended period cannot benefit from proficiency. So at first you're just distracted, then the universe is distracted.
So your left leg grows an inch too long and you can't dance anymore.
Yeah. Or melancholic. At first your emotions become increasingly detached from physical experience. And the alien version, your alien mind gradually takes over your body, resulting in a progressively alien appearance. Examples include the drooping of the nose and lips, dilation of the pupils until they cover the entire eye, the thickening of the hair into small, fleshy tentacles, and the emergence of vestigial appendages such as extra teeth or fingers on various parts of the body. Challenges involving appearance, including camouflage or concealment, cannot benefit from proficiency. How's that for an escalation?
Ew. Gross.
Mm-hmm. And you have there's almost a full D10 roll for these kind of effects. Like, with what you mentioned earlier, epileptic would certainly fit. At the low end, you just deal with epileptic seizures at times. On the high end, the loss of control also manifests in size, with some but not all limbs or parts increasing in size, making you ungainly. or moody, where you deal with slight changes in personality, and then, on the worst case, you start to develop a Siamese twin. It's a very nice bit of body horror. I say nice, but I remember how watching The Fly as a kid gave me nightmares for weeks. Same thing with The Thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say basically, bad roll equals you turn into the Thing.
Hmm. Now, I will give all the props in the world to the practical effects department of that movie.
Oh, it's genius.
But at the same time, fuck you.
Imagine spending your entire life dedicated to a craft only for like its crowning achievement to be disgusting and terrifying people forever.
Some people who I know who work in horror would say, "Joke's on you, I'm into that shit."
I mean, hey, it's impressive, but at the same time, it's a little odd when you think about it.
Yeah. But then we get to character creation, or actors. They make clear that characters are supposed to originate from myths or legends, so the entire story shapes their personality, motivations, and so on. I do like that they're hammering that point home, that you're playing these dramatic figures in a very dramatic world. So with your starting attributes, they all start at 1. You do get a ancestry and then 3 archetypes: preparation, journey, and return. This determines the values of attributes as well as proficiencies and abilities and incarnations. And with proficiencies, it's not a case like knacks that we saw earlier. It's a case of you either have it or you don't. But you can also purchase tokens at the end of character creation, and the singer assigns any rituals based on your context. But ancestry is the place of birth, which grants you its own feature. There's no stat modifier you're getting from ancestry. So either you hail from Ramat, Namat, or Govit, and get 1 feature from it. Then archetype, which grants a stat mod, a proficiency, an incarnation, and a sacrifice. Not sacrifice, a feature to it. We have innocent, orphan, and warrior. And it looks like for each preparation archetype, you can spend 2 stress points to do something, but only once per crisis turn. Essentially, you can do an additional it looks like for each one, you can do an additional challenge based on either body, mind, or heart. Actually, most of them are body or mind. So innocent, you can do an additional body challenge if you spend 2 heart stress. Orphan, you can spend 2 body points for an additional mind challenge, and warrior, you can spend 2 mind for a body challenge. Oh, I forgot guardian angel up at the top, which is the exception to the rule, it appears, where it has it that for its crisis, you can impose the loss of a single point of body stamina or wound on yourself during the crisis phase before the order otherwise described, can be used once per turn. essentially, once per turn, you can take the hit. Which would make sense for an archetype called Guardian Angel. But the preparation archetype is supposed to be your existence before the event that marked your myth, i.e., your early life. The journey archetype is what experiences you endured when you shaped your legend. And I don't know why, but when I look at the archetypes, I keep envisioning them like I'm looking at tarot cards. And the return archetype represents the events that follow after you completed your feat in the myth and you return to everyday life. You know what this is? This is a very Joseph Campbell kind of thing. You know, have you ever read Hero with a Thousand Faces or seen The Hero's Journey?
I know of the literary concept of the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm. He first outlined it in the book Hero with a Thousand Faces. He also outlined things like interpreting the Western as a modern fairy tale. Which, I think on some level he was onto something. Plus, you know, the Old West is just as likely to kill you as a forest in any original version of a fairy tale. You know, the OG version of the fairy tales, not the Disney-fied versions.
Yeah. The ones where the fairy comes out of the forest and then guides you in, and then a pack of wild animals tears you apart.
Mm-hmm. Like, I know a lot of people are nostalgic for The Little Mermaid, but reading the original story and then going back to that is quite a leap. It did not end well. At all. And same thing could be said for The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which has an ending of rocks fall, everyone dies.
People didn't used to like happy endings, did they?
Well, a lot of those dramatic storytelling motifs come from the Greeks, who really didn't like happy endings. Like, Greek tragedy is a part of the lexicon for a reason.
Yeah.
But
oh, how does it end? Oh, well, it turns out he did fuck his mother, and then he went off to walk the desert forever.
I had a significant other a long time ago who thought Romeo and Juliet was romantic.
They didn't even know each other. They just met, and then it was like, whatever.
After that revelation, I said nothing for about 10 seconds, and then said, either you're sleeping on the couch tonight or I am.
I mean, the whole point is that isn't the whole point of that story that, like, they were trapped in their circumstances and that was really the basis of their relationship?
Yeah.
It's not romantic. It's sad, but it's not romantic.
Well, that and I have several questions if someone finds a double suicide romantic.
Yeah.
But it does appear that the token box that they have here is a more abstract version of inventory and equipment. Uh, essentially, you're able to purchase tokens to say that you have a certain item, whether that be a tool, a protection, a fetish. I know some of you are giggling. Don't. Or an ointment.
Don't.
So the idea is that you are pulling what you need from your backpack or some kind of thing, but you can't do it infinitely, which is what the tokens are for. The tokens are shared amongst the group. So it does mean that if you're pulling items from the box, that's one less opportunity for somebody else that might help you. Which that's a good way to build a team dynamic. But then we have rituals, which are described as ceremonies through which the power of the purple sun is channeled to produce various effects. And rituals require the destruction of ritual objects and sacrifices, sometimes including sentient beings. So anyone can attempt to perform a ritual, provided they possess the scrolls detailing the procedure, symbols, and necessary offerings. Rituals are acquired throughout the course of the game. However, the singer may assign a character up to 2 rituals that require ordinary ingredients, if they align with background and statistics. These are considered to be inscribed on scrolls and grimoires, linked to the owner, and cannot be shared with other characters except through special procedures, such as days of study and meditation, or copying with rare inks. So since we are very much dealing in dark fantasy, I guess this is their way of saying magic is not something to be screwed around with. You're not spending MP, you're destroying something in order to create that effect. An ordinary ritual just consumes a fetish token. A rare one is an exclusive item, and a sacrifice requires the ritual caster to lose wounds. Or worse, a sacrifice of life, meaning you've got to take somebody out. And each ritual does have its own crisis gauge that has to be checked against, where you have the procedure, then the phase, and resolution. And a lot of the rituals do inflict corruption, it appears. But because of how they're set up, it's very clear. Using just one of them is going to come with heavy prices. I'd say this is less of the spellcasting wizard and more of the type of warlock you would see in a horror fantasy affair. You know, the kind who does not look all that right and probably has half of his body covered in tattoos that he will not explain. Which, honestly, I'm fine with that approach. If you're going to have magic be dangerous, then it should be actually dangerous. But this isn't This isn't one of those cases of just saying a few magic words and then getting an effect. I mean, I guess I could compare it to the way magic worked in, say, Berserk.
Mm.
You know, where first off, in order to use magic, you need to astrally project. And second off, while being in the astral realm, you are just as vulnerable to other spirits who might want to screw with you.
Mm.
But in chapter 5, they go into a bit more on crises. You know, the context and purpose of it, building the crisis gauge, which the baseline for that is usually 1 plus the number of characters. Then the crisis phase, which is suggested to have a constant and situational consequence, maybe an exceptional one if certain conditions are met, and then resolving it. An example they give is some of the monsters that they have. And then a full example of building a crisis. Along with... Now, I usually skim over adventures. And the final thing is a bit of an appendix. So we do have a proper index.
There's an appendix.
Mm-hmm. As well as a flowchart for managing the crisis system. And the character sheet proper. Which, admittedly, I do like this kind of spiraling setup they have here. Which
Looks cool.
Is showing the there's almost a degree of importance where stress is going to be you're going to have a lot more of, and it's going to be easily gained and lost. And as you go higher up, you get stuff that's more deadly to you if you end up gaining or losing it. There's also a quick note when it comes to abilities, corruption, and the rituals you may know. As well as a cards. I feel like the intent with the incarnations thing is to print these off and use them as almost cue cards. As well as a reference for the token, and then several pre-gens. Which kind of give a few examples on how characters can be built. And that more or less covers Soul Tyrannus, which I think is interesting, but this is very much a narrative affair. I wouldn't plop this in front of people who've only played D&D, but for some who like to lean more into the storytelling side, this would be a more natural fit. But there is one problem. It is the elephant in the room that has been sitting in front of me saying, "Address me." This game is using a lot of stock art. There's several pieces that I recognize from other games I've seen that use stock art.
I mean, which do you prefer, stock art or AI art? Honestly, I'll take stock art because
Yeah.
AI art is terrible.
I am not one of the. I will note when it comes to the AI debate, I'm not one of those people who decides to go full zealotry on the matter, like I've seen some do. Because
Oh, I'm not either. It's just that AI art stinks.
yeah,
It's terrible.
the only people who I've seen be able to do something competent with it is the Gates of Crystallia folk, and they have a very, very controlled setup with theirs, where it's more of an assistance method rather than making it wholesale. And they are very transparent about how they're using it. Plus, even that artist side, they have a very strong sense of layout design, so I can't just write them off as a bunch of scrubs. But when it comes, but I also cannot deny that there is a significant disadvantage when it comes to using stock art or just art that you didn't directly, that wasn't directly commissioned. And I'm not going to say that all the stuff here is that, but there definitely is some of it. If you are trying to build around a specific setting, then having stock art honestly detracts because there isn't a unified voice. And what I see here in Soul Tyrannus is more of a vibe of a setting rather than a proper world. I feel like this is some. If you already have this, because of that, I think the big obstacle is going to be genre savviness. Like, it's going to depend on how familiar you are with dark fantasy, especially pulp fantasy. Because if, again, I know you're not as familiar with that, and because of that, I probably wouldn't have plop this in front of you without having you watch at the very least the original Conan movie.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Lou Ferrigno Hercules if I feel particularly spicy. That movie was weird. It came out in '83, and one of it involved Lou Ferrigno, you know, the Hulk.
The Hulk. Yeah.
Who's wrestling a bear again. Not an animatronic bear. He wrestled a real ass bear, which I know that was a thing in some of the more carny eras of wrestling, but still, there's the problem of it being a fucking bear.
I mean, it was probably a pretty well trained bear, I would imagine. It's not like a wild bear.
Well, yeah. I mean, the scariest biking moment I ever had was waking up from camp and seeing a black bear about 30 feet away from me. It was asleep. I nudged my buddy and saying, "We're packing up. We're getting out of here because I don't want to be anywhere near that thing when it wakes up."
Yeah. I mean, I hear that black bears are actually pretty harmless for the most part. It's more like it's pretty much all the other bears that are really, really dangerous.
Grizzlies. Grizzlies are nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Grizzlies are like, they'll kill anything that moves.
Yeah. In my defense, I grew up with a lot of horror stories about what bears will do when they get a whiff of human food.
Yeah, especially if the human is the food. I go for walks in the woods as evidenced by my program, and every time I do, I always I wonder to myself, I wonder if this is the day that I'm gonna see a bear and I'm gonna get chased by a bear.
Yeah. think the only other thing that was on that same level of scary, and it was seeing a moose not too far away, which I have jokingly called moose the true rulers of Canada.
I've seen a moose once in my life, and I'll tell you what, it was a baby moose, but it was still like 6 feet tall, and it cleared a fence while I saw it.
Yeah, moose are the North American king of FAFO energy.
Yeah.
But I feel the point is, I would hesitate to recommend Soul Tyrannus to anybody who already is not a fan or does not have some knowledge of sword and sorcery type fantasy. And that is a very specific kind of vibe. As opposed to if this was trying to do high fantasy, anybody who's tangentially familiar with fantasy would be able to jump in and have no issue. There's always been an undercurrent of horror when it comes to dark fantasy, especially sword and sorcery. This one's no exception, but I feel like if you don't have a particular setting in mind or a particular vibe that you can help people build around, it's gonna be an issue. Now, when it comes to the actual mechanics here, I get what the crisis system is doing, and this is something that could be very beer and pretzels. There's just that elephant in the room. And if I was to put this on my grading system, I'd probably go with playable. And I will note one of the disadvantages of using stock art. And I'm not casting judgment on using stock art or using AI art, unless you want to be an AI bro about it. You know the type. Is the fact that character art, especially, and even setting art, is a very good way to quickly establish a tone to help people understand what kind of characters that they're making. I've been on some shows outside of this one and outside of when I talked with you about it, where somebody brought up, you didn't use AI art for your game, did you? I'm like, no, that was never in consideration. Because stock art was never in consideration and AI art was never in consideration because what I felt I needed was too specific for both. Especially when it came to things like character art. Because if I'm doing art that's specifically trying to emulate console style RPGs, generic fantasy art would never fit. And especially for certain character archetypes. Like I didn't want D&D style dwarves. But I know that there's a certain romanticism when it comes to more narrative focused games, more games that focus more on the story. But there's one flaw that those kind of games have. It is very, very dependent on everybody being on the same page and everybody being on a similar wavelength as far as what what that session is going to be. In a typical sense, when you have the GM with a adventure and layout and whatnot, that burden isn't as much of an issue. You can plop down in front of something like D&D and have some idea of what you're going to be doing just by osmosis. I'm not sure I can say the same here. And what's frustrating is it brings up things like the purple sun and the like, which would indicate some sort of setting, but we don't have enough of that. Like the previous game we covered, Mercs, Mages, and Monsters, had a full map of the setting and the poor state of the kingdom that you're playing in. I feel like that needed this even more so. Which is... And to kind of put a bow in it, if based on what you've seen here, if I invited you to do a one-shot of to be a player in a one-shot of this, do you think you could handle it, or do you think you'd hesitate?
I'm. I mean, are you asking me in the hypothetical sense or in the literal sense?
Hypothetical. I'm not going to be running this anytime soon.
Oh, okay. I mean, truthfully, I'm not a huge tabletop guy. If it was the initial instinct, I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, it's not even really anything to do with the game in specific. It's more just my confusion about the nature of it in general.
Mm-hmm. But with the I want to see because I got this through backing it, but I want to see how much it would be price wise. So let me, because it's okay. So it is on. I thought it was on Drive-Thru RPG, and then I get a not found. So that's lovely. Unless this is one of those cases where they didn't put it on. Okay, so it is available on sites like Indieverse for $14. I think that might be a bit high. Like just based on what I'm seeing here, I think 14 is a bit much. Especially when you compare it to Mercs, Mages, and Monsters, that was 10. So, like I said, this one is a playable. Like, there's nothing wrong with the way the mechanics work. It's just that there's a bunch of caveats that would be potential issues. But with that said, I think that is where we will wrap up this particular episode of The Valley. I am not doing Cloister the Dice tomorrow because of schedule conflicts. Yeah, tabletop and schedule conflicts. A match made in hell. But I will be doing an interview with some of the folks at the Yellow Hand on their Simulacrum project. One of the rare times where I have a guest who's in the same time zone as me. Like it doesn't happen all that often. Most of the North American guests I have are on Eastern time.
Guilty.
Occasionally I get one of those weird ass ones like St. John's Island in Canada, where it's an hour and 15 minutes difference. I don't know why there's that 15 minutes.
St. John's Island?
Yeah.
I mean, I know,
Wait, maybe I might be thinking of the wrong...
I know in Canada I just visited Prince Edward Island, and that's an hour ahead. I don't know about a 15-minute time zone though.
I might be thinking of the wrong. I might be thinking of the wrong island. But
I know that there's a 15-minute time zone in Australia, and it's basically a single stretch of road.
yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a story behind that.
Yeah.
And I'm also well aware of the fact that the central time zone in Australia decided to split into two 30-minute time zones of north and south. No one has been able to explain why.
I don't know. Whenever there's like a weird geographical distinction like that, I just assume that it's something to do with World War II.
I'd like to, but
it's the reason. It's the reason why we have an island with cats and an island with rabbits.
On the other hand, then there's Arizona, which feels that they have to have their own special-ass time zone just to themselves and not do daylight savings like everybody else.
Well, frankly, I think they're on to something with that. Daylight savings is stupid.
Maybe, but when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. But with that said, that'll wrap it up for this particular episode. Obviously, the Valley will return next week, and this Sunday we'll be wrapping up the look at Anima. So that should be fun. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.